Funding for the VDRDC and this webinar was provided by the U.S. Department of Education under grant number H327J110005. However, the contents of this webinar do not necessarily represent the policy of the U.S. Department of Education, and you should not assume endorsement by the federal government.
Greetings and welcome to the webinar. My name is Jason Stark, Director of the Described and Captioned Media Program. Before we begin, I want to go over the process for submitting questions. We will have a Q&A session after each presenter. Questions can be submitted via the text chat box on the webpage or emailed to webinars@dcmp.org. If you have technical questions regarding the webinar platform or are having any difficulties with the presentation, please email those so that we can address them quickly. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Dr. Joshua Mealy, Director of the Video Description Research and Development Center. Josh?
Thank you very much, Jason. It is a pleasure to be here presenting to you guys today. Thank you very much, Jason, for organizing this. So I am the director of the Smith Kettlewell Video Description Research and Development Center in San Francisco. And we have a number of different things that we're working on, but really our mission is to, it's very simple, essentially to improve access to online instructional video for blind and visually impaired students. There are two basic ways that we're going about this. One is by investigating and innovating web-based technologies and techniques. And essentially what that means is that we are developing new tools for describing web-based video of the future. The second way that we're approaching this is by working with a diverse community of description stakeholders to ensure that what we're working on is what people need and that it addresses the widest possible variety of situations and users. So essentially we are developing tools and techniques, and we're working with the broad community to make sure that those tools are what people need. The technologies that we're working with, that we're investigating, fall into three basic categories. One is to allow professional and amateur describers to share and create description materials that can be developed in a variety of ways. I'll touch on that in a second. But basically, we're using modern web-based techniques for crowdsourcing so that anybody, anywhere can describe almost any material and share it with anyone else. The second approach is to use smartphone-based technologies to access description in a variety of settings, including classrooms, assemblies, and theaters, and of course living rooms and other places where people want description. And really what that means is that we're interested in using mobile technologies as the delivery platform for a variety of video description materials so that people can use the tools that they already have access to through open source software in order to get described materials. And finally, we're using some automated techniques to describe, to facilitate some description tasks using computer vision. So we are looking at approaches to, for example, identifying and reading text that's on screen automatically, or notifying a viewer, a blind viewer, of screen or scene changes, or face recognition. So these are the technologies that we're working on. I mentioned that we're working with a diverse group of stakeholders, and we have a number of different partners that we're working with. These include, of course, consumer organizations, advocacy groups, description professionals and providers, educators, museums, software developers, and many other groups as well. And the group that we're working with, the Description Leadership Network, is expanding as we sort of move along in our research and development and see more opportunities for different kinds of approaches. If you want to learn more about what the center is doing, you can visit our website. It's at www.vdrdc.org. And of course, you can visit that after the webinar. What we want to do now is teach you about a bunch of approaches that are currently available. While we at the center are developing the access tools for the video of the future, we want you to be able to access the video of today for your classrooms and your students. So we're interested in presenting this do-it-yourself educational description, and we want to talk about guidelines and tools that are currently available and that will help you as amateur describers to basically take advantage of free software and information that's already out there and available to you just by downloading information for free on the web. The things that we'll be presenting today are, the first thing will be how to know what to say. In other words, what types of things you need to describe when you're writing a description. That'll be presented by Rick Boggs of the Accessible Planet, one of our partners. Next, we will be presenting a hands-on tutorial for MAGPIE, which is the media access generator from WGBH and National Center for Accessible Media. Jeff Fried will be talking about that, and of course there will be time for questions after all of our sessions, by the way. Next, we'll be doing another hands-on tutorial of a second description piece of software that can be used for providing description yourself. It's called Live Describe, and Carmen Branch, the author of the Live Describe tool, will be presenting that. He's at the University of Toronto. Finally, we will be presenting a short segment on where to find described educational video right now. That means stuff that's already described, not stuff that you need to describe. And Jason Stark of the Described and Captioned Media program, our co-host, will be presenting that. So I want to give special thanks, of course, to DCMP and Jason and all of the DCMP staff for partnering with us to present this webinar. It's very exciting that we're able to bring this information to you. And I also, of course, want to thank our presenters who I just named, who are kind enough to share their expertise with you about all of these amazing free online resources that you can use to describe materials in your own homes and classrooms. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Josh. Before we get into the hands-on tutorials for MAGPIE and Live Describe, I would like to introduce Rick Boggs, who is the Executive Director of the Accessible Planet. Rick?
Thank you, Jason. It really is an honor and a pleasure to be able to be part of this. It's very exciting what's going on at the VDRDC, and just to have any kind of be able to contribute in any way is absolutely my pleasure. What I'm going to be presenting here is really the culmination of a couple of years of work looking in detail at all of the various published standards and guidelines for audio description that we could find in the world, really. And I've rendered those, myself and a staff of people here, have rendered those down to some core principles that should provide guidance for you should you find yourself in a situation where you've got to do the description. This really is aimed at when description is not available for students that need it, and someone's got to step up and do it. How are you going to be able to do that? I'm hoping that I can provide something that will be valuable for you. What we start off with very quickly here, just as an overview. Again, some people wonder about terms. What is audio description versus video description, that kind of a thing. Well, if audio description is translating visual information into objective, unbiased words, then of course video description is a sort of a subset of that. Mm-hmm. The purpose of any kind of description really is just simply to do exactly that, to translate the essential, and that's kind of a critical word that we'll talk about here, the essential visual information that that people who are blind or have low vision need. You know, it also applies to anyone that can't see a screen, as we'll find there's probably general purposes for this. But in this context, someone that is unable to see the information on the screen, the function of audio description is just to be able to provide that information. So what we have is 10 general principles of audio description. These 10 principles would apply to any form of description. If you're describing a live event, if you're describing a stage play, a performance, if you're describing also video as well, but let's see, live event, video performance, exhibits, fine art, anything like that. These principles would be the principles that would apply to any form of audio description. Again, these rendered, what we did was we tried to find the common ground. You'll find that there are some discrepancies among what people think are the measures for quality audio, effective audio description. What I'm presenting here are the common ground. These are the things that we find everybody agrees on in terms of what makes description work, what makes it effective. And what we have, the first general principle is really, this is the one that if you had to render it down to just one thing, this would be it. Describe what you see. And it's amazing. It sounds simple, but you find with amateur describers that the tendency is to want to describe things that you don't see, to make assumptions or draw conclusions, and we'll talk more about that. But it's describe what is physically observable, like appearances and actions. And sometimes the most difficult thing about doing audio description is remembering that what not to describe. That's really what can make description condescending, insulting, talking down to the user when you're telling them things they already know or things that they can perceive from listening. Or like we have here, describing motivations or intentions or things like that. And again, we'll talk a little more in detail. But pay attention to what should not be described, because that has a lot to do with whether your description will be useful and effective. The second general principle, describe that which is most significant or essential in the allotted time. And time is never a describer's friend, really. It's especially in video description, you just never really have the time unless you're using the stop technology, where the video can stop and you can elaborate. It's very difficult in most media situations to describe everything you want to describe in the time that you have, and you never get to describe everything you want to describe. So you have to learn to decide what is essential or critical that would not be understood without the description. Third general principle is do not explain what you think is going on or why. It's not your job as a describer to help the person understand the video and say and explain it. You're just trying to translate what the person doesn't see. The next principle. Do not, and now these next three they kind of all go together in my mind. They might be, I might summarize them as saying, do not interpret the video, but let's look at them individually. Do not describe moods, motives, or reasoning. The reasoning of the characters. If there's characters, if it's a story unfolding, you don't have to explain what people are thinking or what their motives might be for what they're doing or anything like that. Again, those are things you can't literally see. They're conclusions you draw from what you see, and you try not to describe your own conclusions. The principle 5 here is do not inject personal interpretations or opinions. Well, you might think someone is absolutely gorgeous, or you might think this is unattractive, or whatever the case might be. There's, again, along the same lines. It's drawing conclusions, and we try to stay away from that in description, because the person, the student watching the video needs to be able to draw their own conclusions like every other student. And principle 6, do not censor the material. This can happen, it tends to happen a lot in entertainment media, but it also happens at the high school and college level in media, where there can be, particularly in some sciences or human sexuality courses or other things. Sometimes, when someone describes for a person who's blind, they feel that they need to make it a little more palatable, if you will. This doesn't serve the student. You can't really censoring material degrades the quality of the description that you're providing. General principle number 7: do not summarize. This one's a hard one for people to understand sometimes, but I think this example of do not describe a series of specific separate actions or events or images and don't take them and describe them as one. I think a fight scene is the best way to explain that, and I know that's an entertainment media kind of an experience. So in a scene, you might want to say, they fight. Well, but that's the sound of a fight is probably already evident to a blind person. It's what is doing what to whom that may not be so obvious. There can be a sound of a train. You might say, hear it, and you say a train passes. Well, a person can hear the train passing. So maybe you could provide some other detail that you can't tell from the sound. What kinds of cars? Are they closed cars, open cars, or what can you see? Or these kinds of details. So summarizing will again degrade the quality of the description you are providing. General principle 8: use the present tense. We're describing what's unfolding right now. It's assumed. Some people tend to want to use the now, later, these kinds of things. But it's assumed that you're describing what's going on right now. So we use simple present tense to make things simple and easy to understand at a single pass. You don't want to have to create description that a person is going to want to rewind and go, let me hear that again. I didn't quite get that. So using simple present tense is the cleanest way to do that. Principle number 9, use the same name for characters, places, and objects, etc. throughout. So once you refer to someone as a dark-haired woman or a man in a gray suit, or you refer to someone as his mother, or you refer to someone as Josephine, from that point, refer to the person or object the same way. If you start calling things different things, it becomes confusing as to whether you're talking about the same person or object that you were talking about before. Again, a simple principle to understand, but you'll find when you get into doing description, these little simple things start to slip. It's a lot of things to remember, and having a checklist like this can help if you want to review your script for your description after you've created it. General principle number 10, definite articles. This is a useful trade that all the description I've experienced really sticks pretty closely to this. Is you use a when you first encounter something. We see a pail, and then when you see it again, the pail. This helps without a lot of explanation. Helps the listener understand that we're looking at the same pail we saw before, not a different one. So a when you first see something, and the when you see that same thing again. Okay, so those are the general principles. Again, if you think about it, and we don't have the time here to sort of point out exactly how all of those would apply to the various genre of description, how would this apply to describing a parade versus an inaugural event versus a live play, but they do. The next portion of this presentation here are rules that apply specifically to media. These don't really apply necessarily to describing fine art or other museum exhibits or events. Rules for media description. These are lettered as opposed to numbered. And A is do describe scene changes when they are not obvious from the audio. Let the listener know where the action is taking place if the information is not apparent from the dialogue or the background sound. Keep the phrases short, like in the bedroom, at the ballpark, at a stadium, just simple little, usually 2-3 word phrases to let the student know this is taking place somewhere else. Outside even. Sometimes we'll say outside, nighttime, in the morning, daytime, something like that. to indicate something about the new scene. Okay, so the next rule here is do read verbatim words and subtitles that appear on the screen. Text on the screen really isn't accessible in any other way, and so this is one of the rules of video description that you really have to try to fit in. It's difficult in documentaries because there's rarely any room to do it, and you don't want to be trampling over dialogue, as you'll see in a second here. But it is important. We assume that text is written to the screen for a reason, and you want the person to be able to have access to it, and your description provides that access. The rule C here for videos. Do follow the action whenever possible. Allow the action or image or sound effects to occur, then identify them. You know, what this means is your description will occur after what you see. This is a common misunderstanding for people that either haven't experienced description or don't rely on it, basically sighted people that don't really usually need the description. They'll always want the description to occur exactly right on the spot when it's on the screen. But if you take into account that we want the dialogue to be heard, you've got to place the description sometimes either before or after. Placing it after is always preferable. It gives the listener the opportunity to try to understand the video from the sound of the program, and then it provides the answer. If you hear a sound effect, maybe some blind people will get it, some won't, but then the description comes in and says, you know, a can falls to the floor. So the description should follow whenever possible. Once in a while, you're going to have to lead it, which means the description occurs first and then it occurs on the screen, but that's not the preferred default. All right, D. Do not describe over dialogue. I think I should have put this rule much earlier, actually. Do not describe over dialogue. Plain and simple. The dialogue of the program, student needs to be able to hear it, so keep your description off the dialogue as much as you possibly can. And only if you have to trample the dialogue, you should have a very, very good reason. Like, if I don't get this description in, they're not going to get something critical, so I have to do it. E. Do not describe obvious sound cues. A lot of people will say, you know, the phone rings or the doorbell rings or a dog barks. But these are things that someone can hear, so it really isn't necessary to describe them. You might want to mention who picks up the phone, because maybe that's not obvious, or who answers the door or closes the door. But that in that case, be clear you're describing it because you're identifying a person, not because you need to fill someone in about what the sound effect was. Next one, F. Do not give away secrets, surprises, and sight gags. You'd be surprised how often this actually happens. Some describers will not take into account the fact that a blind person wants to experience the surprise or to figure out the gag on their own as much as they possibly can, and you're really only providing the minimum essential information that's needed to understand the joke or the surprise, and do it after the surprise is revealed in the video. Let's see. Do not describe camera angles or the TV screen. Again, we're trying to keep. We don't want to be distracting from the video. The description isn't the show. It's not what the person is paying attention. It's not the show itself. The primary focus is not the description. The description is supplemental and provides access, but it isn't the focus. So things like a close-up shot, we're not explaining the cinematography. That's not the point of the description. Or the camera zooms in. These kinds of things are distracting and remind those, oh, you're watching a video, and discourage them from being involved in the program itself. Okay, so with that, all we have left is a list of guidelines for you online. There are tools on how to, tips and tools for providing a description. These online resources, like the ACB has a couple. Their ADP guidelines, their ADP draft of standards, the Audio Description Coalition standards, The description key, one of my favorites from the DCMP. I think it's an excellent tool that you should turn to be able to provide quality description. The Independent TV Commission on guidance on standards, and the Media Access Group has a strategies and techniques document. So those are some resources that you do have online. I'm open for questions if we still have time for that, and I thank you all for listening to this summary of the principles of audio description.
Great, thanks so much, Rick. We have a few participants complaining about audio issues, so we're going to make a quick change in the way we are pushing out the content. It's going to result in a momentary black video screen. So we're going to make that change right now and be back with you in a matter of seconds. Fantastic. Hopefully you guys will notice an increase in the quality of the audio. And as Rick said, we're going to open the floor to questions. As a reminder, you can enter those into the text chat box or can email them to webinars@dcmp.org. So the floor is open for questions.
This is Josh. While we're sort of getting some questions, I wonder if before we start our next segment, if the URLs that Rick showed in his last slides could be some of those could be read aloud, just so that folks can know what those URLs are if they weren't able to see them on the screen.
Hey, Josh.
Yes.
I just wanted to say that the URLs are, the majority of them, I think except for 2 or 3, are on the videordc.org website as well.
Wonderful. Okay, great. So folks can just go to videordc.org to find links to all of those description guideline resources.
Okay, it doesn't look like we have any questions pending at this time, so we are going to proceed along. We are very excited to be providing demonstrations of 2 free applications which can be used to add description to media. After each demonstration, we will have open the floor for questions. So now I'd like to introduce Jeff Freed, who is the Director of Technology Projects and Web Media Standards for the Carl and Ruth Shapiro Family National Center for Accessible Media. Jeff, we're ready for your demo.
Hi, everybody. Let me just get set up with some screen sharing. Okay. Can Jason or somebody, can you just verify that you're seeing? Okay, you can see my desktop. All right. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm going to give you a brief demonstration of some free software that we issued from NCAM over a decade ago called MagPi. MagPi gives you the ability to add not just audio descriptions, but also captions to various forms of online multimedia. And I will be demonstrating just the description part of MagPi today. MagPi is something you can download for free from the NCAM website, which is just ncam.wgbh.org. That's N like in Nancy, C-A-M like in Mary, .wgbh.org. There's a link on the homepage to tools, and on the tools page, you'll find MagPi as well as some other resources that we make available for making various forms of multimedia accessible. MagPi is software for Windows only. It runs on just about any Windows OS that you'll encounter today. I can't say anything about Windows 8. Windows 7, XP are certainly supported. So what we have on the screen is the Magpie editor, which currently is empty. What I'll do is lead you through the process of loading a movie into Magpie, writing just a couple of descriptions since our time is limited, adjusting the descriptions, timing them to the media to appear at the right point, and then exporting the whole package, which is to say video with descriptions, to a QuickTime movie, and then showing you what that looks like. And then we'll take questions afterwards. After you open Magpie, you need to load a video into it. So you open the File menu and you choose New Project. And you click on the Browse button and you go find the movie. Magpie will support any video format that is supported by QuickTime, which is to say any MOV file, AVI. If you have, say, a Windows Media clip, a WMV, if you simply convert that to MOV or something that QuickTime will support, you can use that as a scratch clip while you're doing your descriptions. So we'll choose a movie and we'll open it. Since we're not doing any captions, I'll just delete the caption region just to save some space on the screen, and we'll hit OK. And you want to, in the track window that you receive, you want to make sure you choose audio descriptions, since that's what we'll be doing today. Press OK, and then the movie will load in a separate window. So now what we have on the screen are two windows. On the right side of the screen, you see the Magpie editor, and on the left side of the screen, I will make this window a little larger, is the video window. Right now, it looks like just a big black box. This movie is about 4 minutes long, but we're only going to be adding descriptions to the first 30 seconds or so. We'll have time for probably 2 descriptions. Taking into account the rules and suggestions that Rick just discussed, all of that information we're going to apply here, or a lot of it we're going to apply here. The first thing that I recommend that you do is watch what you're going to describe. So if you've never seen the movie, obviously you want to watch not just the scene you're going to describe, but watch other material, before and after, so you get the whole thing in context. I realize that display of video in a conference like this is not going to be smooth and continuous. You'll probably get a refresh about every second or so. So the video will appear to be very jerky, but the audio should be about as clear as my voice. I have a little set of speakers here set up, and so you should be able to hear the audio without any problem. I will press the play button, and you'll at least hear audio, and you'll probably see some jerky video. Up at the top of the Magpie editor window is a set of video controls, conventional controls, stop, pause, fast forward, rewind, and play, as well as a little scrubber to slide around the timeline. I'll press the play button and we'll watch about 30 seconds.
Hi, chicken kebab? I want just Linda Body Shop. 30% for taste. Everything on it. I love junk food. I like eating street food. I like eating...
Okay, so we saw, maybe 20, 30 seconds of video, and in the audio, we've got 2 pauses. There's about a 5-second pause, then a narrator comes on and says something, introduces Linda Bartoshuk, and then there's another pause. And so what we're going to do is stick descriptions into those 2 pauses. Let's go back to the beginning. Now, in the Magpie editor, on screen, we have what looks like a grid, and in this grid is where we're going to put all the information for our first description. On the far right, there is a column called audio transcription, and this is where you simply type a script. You can type everything that you want to say in here, or you can just type notes to yourself, because you're going to be recording after you type the transcription. The transcription does not appear anywhere but in the editor, so the transcription is basically for your reference. The remaining cells in the grid are spaces where time code information will go, meaning the time code information for when the description should play and when it should stop playing. if that's necessary. And then there is a cell in the grid called audio resource, and that will be the actual audio file for the description. Magpie comes with a nice feature, which is a little audio recorder, so you can actually not just write the text of the description in Magpie, you can actually record it and then sequence it into the movie. Now, what we'll do is play the very beginning of the movie and time the pause into which we're going to put a description, because you need to know how much time you have before you record or write, and then we'll go from there. So we have roughly 5 seconds before the woman says hi. So we have about a 5-second pause into which to put a description. Since the video is pretty jerky, what's happening on the screen is there's a crowd of people on a city sidewalk, and there's a line of street vendors, and the woman walks through the crowd and walks up to one of the vendors and starts speaking. So within those 5 seconds, we're going to try and describe as much as we can that is pertinent, and this is what I think might make a good description. And I'll type it into the audio transcription cell and also read it aloud when I'm done typing. Okay. If you couldn't understand all of my tapping, what I typed is the following. Outside, people line up at food carts. A woman approaches one vendor. And I think that's probably going to fit into the roughly 5-second window that we have. All right, and then I will hit the return key twice to make a new cell to type the next description into. The process I'm going to follow, since we only have 2 descriptions, is I'm going to write both the descriptions, then I'm going to record both the descriptions, and then I'm going to sequence both the descriptions into Magpie. So we'll do them. We'll do it that way. All right, let's play the movie.
All is at the Linda Body Shop. That is to say, for taste. Everything on it. I love junk food.
I love junk food too. So we have about a 2.5-second pause between the time when she places her order and, between the time where the narrator announces who's speaking and then when she comes on and talks about junk food. And what's happening on the screen is the street vendor that Linda Bartoshuk is talking to is taking chicken off of the grill that he's just cooked and scooping it onto a round piece of flatbread. So I will write the following description. A vendor, actually let me type it, I can't type and speak at the same time. Oops. Okay. And the description that I wrote is as follows. A vendor scoops grilled chicken into a round flatbread. And I think that's probably going to take me a good 2 seconds or so to speak when I record it. All right, we've written our descriptions. One thing we haven't done is saved our file. Always save your work, because you never know when things are going to blow up. Okay, so we have 2 descriptions. Let's go back to the first one, and now we're going to record. Down at the bottom of the editor window is a button that says Record Description, and we press that, and up pops a new dialog that contains controls for the audio recorder. The buttons that you might normally expect: record, play, and stop. There's a button to manipulate the audio settings. There's a browse button, which I'll talk about in a minute. And then there is a button that says use generated unique file name. If you have a lot of descriptions that you're going to be recording one after the other and you don't feel like naming them yourself, you would check that box and Magpie will just assign a name to each one of the audio clips. What I generally recommend, though, is that you actually name the file yourself, because that way you can use a name that refers to the audio clip and you'll be able to determine what the clip is later on if you need to by the file name. Okay, so to record the audio description, you simply press the record button and you speak into the microphone. And when you're done speaking, you will press the stop button. So now I'm going to record the first description. Here we go. And you'll hear me do this. Outside, people line up at food carts. A woman approaches one vendor. All right, I press the stop button. Now I'll press the play button and listen to it. Outside, people line up at food carts. A woman approaches one vendor. That's pretty loud, and it took me almost 5 seconds to do it, 4.87. I'm going to, for the sake of time, leave it. Ordinarily, I might go back and re-record that because it's pretty loud, but I think the speed is okay. So I'm going to type a file name. We'll call it vendors, and I'll press the OK button. And now on the screen, in the audio resource cell for that description, is text that says vendors.wav, W-A-V. That's the name of my audio description file that has been recorded. Okay, let's do the next one. I'm going to click on the row for description number 2, hit the record description button and press record, and then I'll speak the description, maybe not so loudly. There we go. A vendor scoops grilled chicken into a round flatbread. All right, play. A vendor scoops grilled chicken into a round flatbread. And I think I should probably do that a little bit faster, so I'll just record over it. Here we go. The vendor scoops grilled chicken into a round flatbread. That looks a little better. The vendor scoops grilled chicken into a round flatbread. All right, we'll type a file name. Call it flatbread, and press OK. Now the file name, flatbread.wav, has appeared in the audio resource column of the editor. All right, so I've written my descriptions. I've recorded my descriptions. Now all I have to do is sequence them or time them into the timeline of this whole presentation. And the way you do this in Magpie, let me just make a couple of adjustments. The way you do this in Magpie is with a series of key commands. You can control the player entirely from the keyboard, and that's generally the easiest way to time descriptions or captions in Magpie. The F6 key is the play and pause control for the video player, and the key command to insert a time code, which is to say, at the moment where you want the description to play, you press F9, and the F9 key will grab the time code at that instant, stick it into the editor, and then move the focus to the next row. So I'll just do a demo here. I'm going to put the focus on the first row, and if I press the F9 key right here, boom, on the screen we now see a time code of 0 in the column called Media Start. That means that at a time of 0 hours, 0 seconds, and 0 frames, my first description will play. Now I don't actually want that, so I'll just delete it for the sake of demonstration. Okay, what I will do is I've rewound the video. I will play the video, and shortly after I begin playing the video, I'm going to press F9, and you will see on the screen a time code inserted into the Media Start column. And then we'll talk about that from there. All right, here we go. I'm going to press F6. Movie starts, F9.
Hi, chicken tip.
I'll pause the video. Now on the screen, you see a media start time of 0.85 seconds, which means at just under 1 second, my first description is going to play. And we can check that right now within Magpie. We'll go back to the beginning, press the play button, and we'll see what happens. Outside, people line up at food carts. A woman approaches one vendor.
Chicken kebab.
How long is it? All right. Now you heard that voice that you heard was my recording of the first description, and it slightly violated one rule that Rick mentioned, which is that you don't want to step on the dialogue. I think what I'll do is simply adjust the start time by backing it up a little bit, and I'll do that manually. I'll go from 0.85 to let's go back to 0.35. So at a little over a quarter of a second, That will back things up, and now let's replay and see what happens. Outside, people line up at food carts. A woman approaches one vendor.
Hi, chicken kebab? All of it's Linda Body Shop. That is a sense of taste. Everything.
Okay, I think that's better. The description comes in, it runs its course, and then the narrator starts, or the lady approaches the vendor cart and starts speaking, and the two audio tracks don't clash. So I think I'm happy with that. Let's go down to the next description. All right, and I'll press the play button. Actually, what I think I'll do this time is I'll show you how to do this on the fly. I'm going to back all the way up to the beginning, and I'm going to begin playing, and at the moment in the timeline where I want the second description to play, I'll simply press F9 without stopping the video, and we'll see what happens. Here we go. I'm going to start playing now. Outside, people line up at food carts. A woman approaches one vendor.
Hi, chicken kebab? All of it's Linda Body Shop. That is a sense of taste. Everything on it.
I just pressed F9.
I love junk food. I like eating.
Okay. Now, when I pressed F9, the precise moment in time when I pressed it, it was at 12 seconds and roughly a half. All right. Let's go back to the beginning and listen to both descriptions now and see how they sound. Outside, people line up at food carts. A woman approaches one vendor.
Hi, chicken kebab? All of it's Linda Body Shop. That is a sense of taste. Everything on it.
The vendor scoops grilled chicken and brown flatbread.
I like eating.
All right. That was a little bit late. My description clashed with Linda Bartoshuk's voiceover. So I will do this manually again. Right now, the time code says about 12 and a half seconds. I'm going to back it up to about 11 and a quarter seconds, so 11.25. Now, instead of typing it in manually, you can simply rewind the video a bit, play it, and then press F9 and overwrite that time code, but I'm going to do it this way. Let's back it up a little bit, press play, and listen to our change.
All of it's Linda Body Shop. That is a sense of taste. Everything on it.
Vendor scoops grilled chicken into a brown flatbread.
I love junk food. I like eating street food. I like eating.
Okay. That, I think, got in just in time. My description starts right as she stops speaking, and then my description ends right as she begins speaking. Whoops, that happened. There we go. So I'm going to leave it at that, and I'm going to save my work. And this is the process that you would repeat for each description. As you can see, there's a lot of repetition. There's a lot of work checking as you go along. It can be a very precise process. It can be as precise as you want it to be. And it can be time consuming. But the more that you do it, obviously, the less time that it will take. All right, now that we've created our descriptions, we need to do something with them. And what we need to do is export this project into something that is one single package, which is to say video with descriptions. In Magpie, you can export into a number of formats, some of which are actually really no longer used, RealPlayer, for example. But we're going to export, for the sake of demonstration, into a QuickTime presentation. So from the export menu, we choose QuickTime. And because this presentation is very short, the export process happens instantaneously. What happens is that Magpie creates a series of files. It doesn't actually put the descriptions into the video. It creates what's called a SMILE file. SMILE, S-M-I-L, stands for Synchronized Multimedia Integration Language. It's a markup language for presenting video and audio and text from the W3C. It creates a file that coordinates the playback of all the media elements in your presentation, which is to say coordinates the playback of the video, and in this case, the two audio description files. So when you open the QuickTime movie, which is, where is it? There we go. When you open the smile file in QuickTime, what opens is a movie, and what will play is the movie with the audio descriptions firing at the appropriate moment. What we have on the screen now is the QuickTime player. I'm going to press the play button and turn this down just a little bit. And what we should see is video, and what we should hear are the two audio descriptions that I sequenced into this movie. Let's see. So people line up at food carts. A woman approaches one vendor.
Hi, chicken kebab? Biologist Linda Bardisher studies the sense of taste. Everything on it.
Vendor scoops grilled chicken into a round flatbread.
I love junk food. I like.
Okay, and that looks pretty good to me. There was a bit of a jerk at the beginning, which I think was just my computer. But I think what we've done, I think we're done with this clip. We've created two descriptions with Magpie, and we've inserted them into this movie. Now, what you would do, you could do one of two things. You could save this movie from QuickTime. You can just open the File menu and press Save, and QuickTime will save this movie into one package with descriptions, and the descriptions would be open, meaning everyone would hear them, and you could put this QuickTime movie onto your server, whatever you need to do with it, burn it onto a CD, whatever. You could also simply take the undescribed movie, which in this case is called Demo. I'll highlight it on screen, and take the smile file that Magpie created, which I've highlighted on screen, as well as the two audio files, Flatbread and Vendors, and put them all onto a directory on your server. And what you would link to on, say, a web page is not the movie, but you would link to the smile file, so that when the user clicks on the link to play the movie, the smile file is called and opens the movie for you with descriptions. That's essentially how it works. Let me close the QuickTime window and just briefly recap in Magpie. The process that I followed was open the movie, watch what I want to describe, and then write a script in the Magpie editor. And again, this script is only for the author to see. This is not something that the user sees. And then for each description that I wrote, I recorded it from within Magpie, timed it from within Magpie, timed each description to appear and disappear at the right time, saved my work, and then exported everything into our QuickTime presentation using Smile. And I think that about eats up my time. Jason? Or anybody? Should I try? I'll just turn it back over to you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jeff. Do have a couple of questions. First question is from Katie Humes, who asks if there is a free Magpie equivalent for the Macintosh.
There used to be one. It used to be called Magpie for the Mac. But that changed when Intel Macs went away. So there's no free equivalent for it. There is one called Movie Captioner, which is not free. It costs about $100. That will do all of this and more. Actually, no, that's not true. That's for captions. I'm sorry. Free description tool. There is one from Toronto, from Charles Silverman. Capscribe, thank you. Yes, it's called Capscribe, and that is available for free. If you just Google Capscribe, you'll find some links to it, and you send them an email, and they will tell you how to get a hold of the software, and that runs on the Mac. And incidentally, that's for captions and descriptions.
Okay, great. Second question is there a way to create one audio file rather than several small files?
Yes, you can do that in a couple of ways. You can just open up Magpie and write a script in Magpie, or just write the script down using any text editor or word processor, and then you can just press the record button like I'm showing you here and record the whole thing all at once. And then what you would do I'll just describe it briefly, is rather than put a separate audio resource for each description, you would put the same single resource in the audio resource column, but in these two little columns here, sorry, one is called audio start and audio end, you would insert the time codes in that audio file at which you want the particular description to play. So if you have say a 30-second audio file containing 3 descriptions, the first one starting at 0 seconds, the second one starting at 10 seconds, and the second one starting at 20 seconds, that's the start information that would go here in the audio start file. You don't have to record the descriptions in Magpie. You can record the descriptions using any audio recording software. You just simply save the files. You can save them as WAV files or MP3 files, for example. And then you would simply insert that audio resource into the audio resource column, and then time as I showed you, or time as I described. So you can record them either in Magpie or outside of Magpie, either way.
Great. Next question is from April Sullivan, who asked, can you say what you did again when you don't want open audio description?
Yeah, sure. That can be a little confusing. In this case, what you would do is, it might actually be useful for me to, I'm going to open the SMILE file that Magpie creates. What you see on screen here, on the screen, is the actual .smile file that Magpie creates when you press the export button. In Magpie, what it does is it creates a text file. And this is basically a control file that contains pointers to all of the resources for your presentation, the video and the audio descriptions in this case, as well as some other information. And I will highlight on the screen an important area, which is to say these are the resources that you need to move onto a server, for example, that are required in order to play this presentation with descriptions. A video, which in my case is called demo.move, and then 2 audio files, which are the descriptions, vendors and flatbread. You need to move those 3 files as well as this SMILE file, which is the control file that plays the presentation into a directory, onto a server. And the way to launch the presentation with descriptions is not to open the movie, but to open the SMILE file, which is always a point of confusion. That make sense?
And then this is Josh. I'm just going to help clarify. The way to open the described version is to open the SMILE file. The way to open the undescribed version is to just open the movie itself.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Josh.
Great. Next question from Ashley is, so you say this does work for Windows 7. Also, is this specifically just for audio recording over video, or does it do other sorts of video editing? And also, what was the website again to download?
Okay, the URL is ncam, N like in Nancy, CAM like in Mary, .wgbh.org. That's the home page for NCAM, and there's a link that says Tools at the top of the page, and follow the Tools link, and there is a link to Magpie right in the top section. Magpie is not a video editor, so you don't use it to edit things out of the video or rearrange segments or anything. You need to use other software for that, and then the movie that you open within Magpie is the final movie. Adding audio descriptions is among the last steps of the creation of your movie. Magpie also will allow you to write and time captions into the presentation. So you could use Magpie to create a captioned, described movie if you wanted to do that. or you can just create descriptions, or you can just create captions. Does that, I think I hit all the questions. Did I get everything?
Yes, thanks, Jeff. Next question from Cindy Gershman is, can you link the audio files to a video of a different format than QuickTime compatible?
Yeah, sure. You can do that in the Smile file. Let me open that back up again. You can use, hang on. Okay, you can use Magpie to, like I showed you, record and sequence the descriptions. You just need to use as a media file, as a movie, anything that QuickTime will play. If your final movie is not in the QuickTime format, but it's Windows Media or an AVI, or even if you're going to convert it to Flash, you can just take the audio files that you've created and move those into the appropriate folder, or merge them if you need to, if this is a Flash presentation. If you want to use a different, say, source file, a file that's different than the one that you used to actually create the presentation, you can change that in the Smile file in the video source region. So, for example, if you actually do plan on creating a presentation for the Real Player, you could use Magpie and a QuickTime version of the movie to make the descriptions, and then in the video source, which I'm highlighting on the screen, you'd simply type the name of the actual source file, which might be, say, demo dot, whatever it was, I can't remember what the extension was anymore, but you'd simply type the file name in the source value, save the file, and now when you open that Smile file, it will open that video that you have specified. Does that make sense?
Great. Next question here is it okay to use JAWS or another computer-generated voice to read the audio transcriptions?
Sure, yeah. You're talking about text-to-speech. In other words, you write the description, and then instead of using a human voice to record, you use JAWS or some other text-to-speech software, right?
I believe that's what they are asking, yes.
Okay, yeah, sure, you can do that. It would be pretty difficult to do that from within Magpie, so what I would suggest that you do, difficult if not impossible, what you would do instead is write the script in Notepad or WordPad or whatever you want, and then have JAWS read and record at the same time, which you could do with, say, some screen grab software, or use something like Text Aloud, which might be a better way to do it, or some other text-to-speech software. There are a number of applications available if you just Google text-to-speech software that will read text and create an audio file for you, like a WAV file. And then you simply enter the name of each description WAV file that you've created into Magpie, and then you can do the timing, and then you can do the export.
Okay, great, Jeff. We're going to go ahead and move along here. Do actually have two questions that need to pose back to Rick Boggs. Have you determined an estimated time ratio for adding descriptions, i.e. it takes 60 minutes to describe 2 minutes of video? Can you answer that for us, Rick?
Okay, yes, I can. A professionally experienced describer, we've been measuring this for a decade now, pretty routinely, every single job that I'm involved in. And our ratio is basically 4 to 1. 4 times the runtime is what our experienced professionals that I've worked with need in order to create an effective description script. An amateur or someone that's inexperienced clearly would need more time than that. You might allow yourself 8 times the runtime, so a 10-minute video you might need 80 minutes. But clearly, the more you do this, the more the quicker that you'll be able to do it. I also highly recommend, I'm a strong advocate for it, using some kind of QC process. Before you bother to record or go through any of the processes of adding description to video, if you can, run it by any blind consumer or student, anyone, to say, does this make sense to you? Do these descriptions, what kind of, and you can play the media and read the description and say, so what do you imagine is on the screen? You know, and give them a chance to describe it in more detail. That's really, if the blind person can sort of describe back to you in more elaborately than what your description provides, what's on the screen and accurately, then you know your description is effective. So those are the time frames that I'm familiar with.
Okay, great. And I also have a question regarding what happens if you're describing something and you as the describer see a mistake?
It is in general, what you don't want to point out in your description, by the way, they made a mistake in this video. The lady had her black purse and now she has a red one. It's not your job to sort of do commentary or critique the video itself. If you stick pretty much to that first rule of describe what you see, and the second rule of editing, which is, since you can't describe everything, describe what's most important. If you see a mistake in the video, how important is it really in the terms of the choices of things that you have to describe? How important is that? If it is important, you know, whatever it is that you're seeing, then you've got to figure out how to succinctly describe it and whether it can fit in the time that you have to say something. But it's not necessary to go out of your way to point out that what you see happens to be a mistake. If you, for some reason, you know, one moment they're holding something in a left hand and now it's in the right hand, and for some reason you need to mention it, you just mention it, and maybe the listener will catch that it's an error, and maybe they won't. But that's the same thing for a sighted person. If the experience is basically comparable, then you've done a good job.
Great, thanks so much. Before we move into the next segment, had one person wanting to confirm the web address for the VDRDC, and that is simply V for video, D for description, R for research, C for center.org. And as Josh and Rick mentioned, the majority of the resources that Rick talked about are listed there. We also will have them listed on the resource page on the webinars.dcmp.org site. In addition, several people have asked about archival, and the webinar will be archived in its entirety on the same page that you came to register, webinars.dcmp.org.
My apologies, Jason. I think in the address you forgot a D. VDRD.
Oh, you are correct.
I didn't hear it.
So this is Josh. I'll just say it again. So since I was probably the one that messed it up in the first place, so it's VDRDC. That stands for Video Description Research and Development Center.org, and you can put a www in front of it if you want, but you'll get there either way. It's VDRDC.org, and if you go there, you can get to resources, all of the resources that have been mentioned, including the webinar page, including the pages and resources that all of which have been mentioned today and will be mentioned. So thanks for having us clarify that.
Thanks, Josh, and sorry for the missing D there. Next up, we want to introduce Carmen Brange. He is the researcher and instructor at the University of Toronto and also the Center for Learning Technologies at Ryerson University, and he's going to give us a demonstration of Live Describe. Carmen, the floor is yours. Carmen, we're not getting audio from you.
Hello, now we're good to go, I think. Okay. So let me know if you still can't hear me.
We can hear you, Carmen, thank you.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so I'm going to talk today about this application, Live Describe, which well, my original intention was to assist amateurs in the creation of video description, and then basically I wanted to make that as easy a process as possible. So let me just, okay, I'm clicking on the share application window, because I still see the Magpie demo. I'm thinking maybe, yeah, I don't see where to share the app. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Okay, start sharing. And okay, perfect. Now we're cooking with gas. So, where's my application? Let's first start off with the website for livedescribe.com. So everyone can see the website here. So livedescribe.com is not only a client application for creating descriptions, but you can also use it to share descriptions through our website. So you can download our software just by going to our website, livedescribe.com, and just clicking on download software at the top. And then what you want to do is download our authoring tool. And this is our current version. We do have fairly often, we do release updates for LiveDescribe, so check back often. And then the other section of the website that you should know about is the section where we actually host some description. So here we've started hosting some description that we had a describer working in the lab for a while, and she was testing out LiveDescribe, and we posted up the description that she created using LiveDescribe on this website. So you can just click here and on any one of these links and click on right here on this audio file and start to hear the description right away. Okay, so let me get to the tool here. So let me go back and let me share the actual LiveDescribe tool. Okay, so I'm going to stop showing this one and start sharing. I guess it's this one. No, that is my. Where's my? Why isn't it coming up? I'm not seeing the app. Okay, 1 second here. Okay, let me restart my application. It's not showing up in the share application list. Okay. Here we go. Okay, little road bumps, but we're here. Okay, so this is the main screen that you're shown when you first open up LiveDescribe. And what you want to do, if you're starting up with a new video description project, the first thing you want to do is import a video. So much like Magpie, LiveDescribe works with video files. So these are not, so it won't work with a DVD or online video like the video from YouTube, for example. So you need the file, you need the video stored as a file on your hard drive. And so LiveDescribe, which unfortunately only works with Windows, so I'm sorry for the Mac users, but what LiveDescribe does is it uses the Windows operating system to read the different video codecs. So LiveDescribe can work with essentially any video format as long as you're able to install the appropriate codec into Windows. So it does work with most things, AVIs, MP4s, etc. So the first thing you want to do is import a video. And I'm not actually going to do that because the importation process actually can take about half as long as the actual video is. And I'll explain the reason for such a long importing process in just a minute. But for now, we'll just jump ahead. I have a project already saved. So I'm going to open up an already pre-done description project, and I'll show you the application from there. So this is one of the projects that our describer and sort of semi-amateur professional describer created for us in the lab. Okay, so let me describe what we're looking at here. This is the main LiveDescribe application interface. So at the top left-hand corner is your video playback window. So I'm going to hit play, and hopefully you'll see some video images. Oops.
New York City. Liz Lemon, hair
Now,
in a
I don't think you
ponytail,
can hear
wearing
the
glasses and
description there.
business
Maybe you
casual attire.
guys can give me an indication if you heard the audio of that. Were you guys able to hear the audio of that video?
This is Jeff. I didn't hear anything.
No? Okay. So let me just explain a little bit more. I'll try putting up the mic up to my headphone just so you can hear the audio later on. But for now, let me just explain a little bit further. So again, the top right is the video. The top left, sorry, is the main video playback window. So that's where the describer will actually watch the video and review to see what's going on. Then sort of directly below that is another window that you can sort of move around the screen. That's your video control window. So it's a much smaller window. It has 5 buttons and a volume control slider. So using these buttons, we can play the video, fast forward the video, rewind the video, and also from this panel, we can also start and stop the recordings of actual descriptions. Then below that is probably the most important section of the description tool, and that's the timeline area. And so LiveDescribe uses a visually based approach to creating descriptions. So what you'll see here is sort of 2 layers. So on the top layer, you can see sort of these black bars with white segments, but some of the white segments are colored green, right? So essentially, what this timeline is showing you is 30 seconds of the video, right? So if I move this in the middle, there's a cursor that I can move with the mouse. So if I move and grab that cursor, you can see how the video also changes, and that's reflected in the video playback window.
Carmen, this is Kyle with DCMP.
Yep.
We're not actually getting the video playback. If you could hit the stop sharing button,
Okay.
and instead of sharing the application, try to share your desktop.
Okay.
That may work better.
Okay, let's try that.
I apologize for interjecting.
No problem. So share the whole desktop. Okay. Better?
Yeah, I'm still not seeing the video frame.
Hmm.
Is there
Yeah,
something different about this test?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I was doing the same thing I did last time. I don't know. Maybe I can just kind of describe what's going on in the video. I'm not really sure why that the video's not showing up. But essentially, the black box in the top left, usually, well, I'm seeing the video anyway. So in this case, this is an episode of 30 Rock, which is a comedy show, and there's a scene of people standing on the street and they're trying to order a hot dog. And as I move the cursor along the timeline, the video updates, so I can see the changes in the video. So I want to sort of bring your attention to these areas on the timeline that I'm sort of selecting here, these green areas that I can click on. So see, when I clicked on the area, the cursor jumped to that position and the area turned red. So that means that area is selected. And what that area means, that is an area that the system has automatically determined with about an accuracy rate of about 70 to 80%. It's determined that that area does not contain dialogue. Because as we heard earlier, it's a good idea not to insert descriptions over top of pre-existing dialogue. Okay? So that's why the importation process takes so long, because LiveDescribe combs through the audio portion of the video and tries to automatically identify where there's no dialogue. Okay? And that sort of reduces a lot of the search time as a describer that you have to put into finding where the spots are to describe. So essentially, you could look through these green areas very quickly and browse through the video and get a sense of where the spots are in the video where you can insert some descriptions. So that being said, it's not 100% accurate by any means. I think even if 2 humans were to do the classification, they may not agree 100% on exactly what's dialogue. I mean, if there's a song in the show and someone's singing, does that count as dialogue? It depends. So what I allow is the describer can adjust the spaces themselves So if it's not quite the right timing, they can adjust it themselves, or they can go to an area of the video by just positioning the cursor here, selecting Mark In, and then they can create their own space. Okay. Now, oops, hopefully did that just something happened there. We're still going strong. Okay. So the other sort of useful feature that these spaces, these non-dialogue spaces offer, so this brings me up to the top top right-hand corner of this little list-like window. So what you can do with these spaces is you can click on them, select them, and then using this list window, you can associate a text description with that space. So for example, I can click on a space. See, now this one is red, so this one space is selected. I can go to this text box in this descriptions and spaces window, and then I can type a description like this is a audio description. Okay. Now I can save that text, and if I come back to that spot, that text will remain. Now that's useful in a number of ways. So number one, it can help you as a describer. It can help you sort of write the description. So LiveDescribe gives you sort of one spot where you can review and record and write the description. So you could review the video, pause it, create a space if you'd like, if there isn't one already there, and then you can associate a text description. So what you can do with that is you can use it actually in the LiveDescribe application. So so for one, because LiveDescribe knows how large the space is, because you define the space. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4 seconds long, and it also knows how many words you have in your text box. It's able to give you some hints as to how quickly you may have to read your descriptions. So 58.5 words per minute. I don't think that's too fast. So what we can do is we can click this record button. We'll save our descriptions. Click the record button, and so now we get this other window, this record description window, which has a big version of your text description. And as soon as you hit record, what's going to happen is LiveDescribe will highlight that text at the pace that you need to read it in order to fit it into that space. So if I click record, then this is an audio description. And then it automatically stops. And you'll see below, I'm not sure if you can, I guess the wave didn't render properly. But below, now you can see this blue icon has appeared, and that represents your newly described description. So what this timeline allows us to do is we can use the mouse to then move that description. So let's say if we didn't like the exact timing, or if we don't like it, we can actually right-click on it and delete it, and then try again. So again, this tool, this karaoke-style tool, is only sort of a helper. You don't have to do it. If you'd like to just record your descriptions on the fly, you can just position your cursor to the spot in the video, simply hit record, record your description while you're reviewing the video, hit stop, and then there's the description. It appears right there. So again, I can go back, I can review it. So let's see, I'm going to try and play the video, and I'm going to put the microphone up to my headphone just so you can hear it. So I'll back it up a little bit, and I don't think we're going to get feedback, so please someone say if we do. Okay, here we go.
Believe this? Half of the line moves to stand behind the guy.
Don't line up behind him. He cheated you.
Hey, shut up.
Okay. So was everyone able to hear that? So essentially what happened?
It's Josh. We didn't actually hear anything. Sorry about that.
Okay. Sorry. I'm trying my best, but I'm using a USB headset, and it's grabbing my speakers and mic, so I can't really separate the two. But what's happened is, so the descriptions has dropped in. You can see the visual representation there. I can move it around. Then when I played it, it played back both the original video with my description overlaid. And then of course I can move it. I can delete it. I can do basically non-destructive editing. Now the other thing we can do with that text-based description is we can produce a synthetic description. So if we just click this button right underneath here, produce. Let's see if that'll work. Yep. And so now it'll use a computer voice. So if you're uncomfortable recording your own voice, you can generate a synthetic description. So again, I won't play because I'm sorry you won't be able to hear it. But it's a fairly decent synthetic voice. They're getting actually pretty natural sounding these days. So and the one final thing you can do with these text descriptions is if you don't want to use a Live Describe to actually record your descriptions, let's say if you're sort of leaning towards the professional side of description, what you can use Live Describe more as a script writing tool. So you can go through the video and use the spaces to create the text descriptions, and then we can go up to export, and we can export our written descriptions. And that'll export, let's see, we can see exactly what it will export. So we can export our description file, our descriptions like this, and we can go look at it on our desktop. And so now what it has is a start time, an end time, and a length for all the written descriptions that were in the application. So now you could take this, let's say, into a recording studio, that they may have a little bit better equipment than just a USB headset if you really wanted to get fancy with your audio quality. Okay, let me see. Oh, the one other thing I should mention. So you'll notice below the first section of the timeline where the space information is listed, where the waveforms are, you'll notice there's two types of waveforms. So there's the blue one. There's the blue waveforms with the audio waveform. But then you'll also notice to the left, there's this skinny red one that doesn't seem to take up a lot of space. Now what that is, that's an extended description. So if I play from this position, what will happen is the video and audio from the original media will stop, but the description will play. And then, so in that way, you could fit in some description into a spot where you not normally have the time. And because we're working with video files and not broadcast TV, we don't have to worry about possibly running into time constraints and things like that. So once you're done, once you've created all your descriptions, you've recorded your descriptions, and you think you're done, there's a couple of things you can do with the video at the end of the day. So just like with Magpie, you can export to Smile. So that'll require a number of files. So you have the Smile file, and then all your audio files, and the original video file. But what you can also do is export just the audio. And what that will do is that'll strip the audio from the video and mix it together with the description audio, so that you have just one audio file that has the original audio and the description audio mixed in with it. And that comes out as a WAV file, and then you can use, there's a lot of free tools that you can use to put that audio into virtually any format from the WAV file. Now the other thing that we're just getting into, we're just fixing really, we have a small development team, so there's some of the functionality is not exactly production, let's say, production quality at this point. But what's coming very soon is the ability to publish directly to livedescribe.com. So what you can do is you can log into our website right through the application. You can then just with one or two clicks, you can export your description and it will upload to our website, and then you can share that description with anyone with access to a browser. Yeah, so I think I've covered most of the sort of the unique features of Live Describe and sort of how you go about using it. Now, if you'll notice on the homepage, right where you download the software, there's a link to this YouTube video. And that takes you through pretty much the things I've been talking about right now, and shows you how to get started by importing a video, how to record a description, how to delete or edit a description, and then how to finally export it to the final file type that you'd like. Okay, I think that's it. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer any.
Great, thanks, Carmen. Have a question. So Live Describe is audio description software like Magpie, but has just different features. Is that correct?
Well, I think there's similar feature sets. I think it's just a little bit different approach to the interface, maybe. I think this Live Describe is a little more visually based. There's not a lot of text that you need to enter. I mean, you could really do it completely. I mean, if you don't want to write your description, you can do everything with just the mouse. You don't really need to type anything at all. I guess we do have the additional automatic space feature detection, but other than that, I think they're more or less, you know, equivalent as far as the features. I mean, we're recording audio and then facilitating a way to sync that audio with video, essentially.
Jeff, do you wanna comment on what you see as sort of the major differences, or are you good?
No, I think that's an accurate representation. Live Describe does a little bit more than Magpie does, obviously, including the text-to-speech output, which is a nice feature. You know, it seems to me that Live Describe is a bit more sophisticated, and so it may be useful for more sophisticated situations. And Magpie might be more useful for situations where, you know, you don't need that kind of sophistication.
Sure.
Okay, great. Carmen, another question. Does it count voice-over narration as, quote, dialogue, unquote?
You mean, yes. So, well, okay, let me just quickly describe how the system works, very, very quickly. So what we did is we essentially, we manually went through a whole bunch of video, like 100 hours of video, and manually marked up what we thought was dialogue and what we thought was non-dialogue. And then the computer extracted some features from those manually classified audio sections. And then basically the computer tries to match up those features to those manual classifications. So it doesn't know about specific, I mean, the algorithm doesn't even know what dialogue is, essentially. It's just looking for characteristics of the audio that usually mean it's dialogue. So if it's a really upfront narration, most likely it'll be detected as dialogue, yes. But if the speech is buried, sort of mixed in with a lot of other sound effects or music, it's unlikely that the system will pick that up as dialogue. So I hope that made it more clear, not less clear.
Great. And actually, one of our presenters, Rick Boggs, had the question. It seems like Live Describe allows for extended description. Does Magpie have a similar feature?
This is Jeff. Yes, Magpie has a similar feature. I didn't show it today because I didn't have time to show it, but if you download Magpie and also take a look at the documentation, it explains how you can create and record extended descriptions as well.
Okay, great. Looks like that is the end of the questions centered around Live Describe, but I do have a follow-up question for Rick, the individual that was talking about describing factual information. The example that he's asking is if the visual is of Washington, D.C., and the on-screen subtitle happens to be misspelled and you were reading that, or if the on-screen narrator is talking about dogs and a picture of a dog appears behind them upside down. Are those things that should be described or not? And obviously this connects to the credibility of the video.
That's a really great question. Someone's really thinking about here. The answer is that, again, using the exact same principles, you've always got to go back to them, and I won't repeat them because we've been over them a couple of times. But in the case of the dog upside down, that's a very simple one because you describe what you see. So you say an image of a dog upside down. If you have, again, assuming that describing any image is a possibility and it's important, and you have room to do it. But yes, you would mention the fact that it's upside down if in fact that's what you see. In the case of a misspelled word, that's a really great question. If subtitles coming across explaining where something's taking place and it says Washington D.C., but it's misspelled, And I think that's a much more debatable kind of an issue. In fact, this is one I'd love to. I have a network of blind description professionals, and this is now a question I'm going to take to them to see what the general consensus would be. In my view, you usually don't have the time to spell something out. And in an educational environment, in a classroom, I think if you know what the intended point is, you do have to take into consideration, by the way, the intended audience. If you're looking at third graders versus 11th graders or university level. But in general, I think by default you're just going to end up saying what the word was supposed to be, because that's all you'll have time to do, and it's more important to get the place across. Although I can, we don't have time here to talk about it, and someone can email me independently. Go to our website, theaccessibleplanet.org, use a contact form, and we can talk more about it. But there would be times I could conceive where simply spelling it out would get the point across. So, good question.
Great, thanks so much. For those of you who might have missed my introduction at the beginning of the webinar, I'm Jason Stark, the Director of the Described and Captioned Media Program, DCMP. And today you've gotten lots of great information concerning how to describe your own media. And I just want to take a few moments to share some information about the DCMP and the availability of accessible media for use in the classroom. The DCMP is also funded by a U.S. Department of Education grant and is a source of free described and captioned educational media. If you're a teacher or parent of a child who is blind or visually impaired, school administrator, or other qualified individual, there are no fees for membership or use. We have over 4,000 accessible educational media items available for kindergarten and early learning through grade 12. The program's been in existence for 50 plus years. Started out doing captioning only, so we definitely have far more captioned items than we do described, but about 4,000 total titles in the collection. Well over 1,000 of those are available with description. We are also doing some Spanish captioning and description, and DCMP titles are available instantly online or available to be mailed to you in DVD format. The features of DCMP media collection are unique. All media is selected after the DCMP conducts research of national curricular priorities and solicits user input, and then that media is formally evaluated by teachers. Titles include high-quality accessibility features, which have been proofed and edited for accuracy and adherence to program standards. In addition, DVD titles with description include talking menus. A user-friendly online catalog allows DCMP members to browse by topic or perform keyword search, and that's not all. We also offer lesson guides for a large number of titles, and we are now including in those guides description and captioning scripts, allowing teachers, parents, and others to pre-teach vocabulary and concepts. So to connect with the DCMP and receive access to the library, just visit us at dcmp.org. And Rick mentioned the DCMP's description key. It can be found at descriptionkey.org. And as we kind of wrap things up, have a couple of announcements. Each of you will receive an email with a link to the evaluation survey. It's very important that we receive your responses to this survey. Your feedback and suggestions will help improve future webinars. The second question on the survey will ask if you are interested in receiving CEU credit for your participation today. Once that form is submitted and your attendance has been verified, the CEU certificate will be emailed to you. And finally, on behalf of Josh and the VDRDC, we'd like to wholeheartedly thank our presenters today. In addition, we'd like to acknowledge DeCapta, who is providing real-time Spanish translation services, and CaptionMax, who is providing the real-time captioning services. So
and Jason, I just wanted to throw in here that DeCapta asked me to mention that they also have Spanish description guidelines at their website, and you can get to them also through the vdrdc.org website. So there are Spanish guidelines for description as well.
Great, fantastic. Well, Josh, I was basically just going to thank people for their attendance. So if you have any closing remarks.
I think that I just want to add to your thank yous and say thank you to everybody for attending today. I really appreciate everyone's incredible information and participation. I appreciate it very much, and I hope that this has been a useful session for all of our participants.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, and everybody have a great day.
Funding for the VDRDC and this webinar was provided by the U.S. Department of Education under grant number H327J110005. However, the contents of this webinar do not necessarily represent the policy of the U.S. Department of Education, and you should not assume endorsement by the federal government.